Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we're going to be talking about my favorite movies, TV, books, and gear of 2018, as well as discuss a couple of new microphone announcements, so go ahead and stick around. Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to episode 149 of the BSP. My name is Bandrew. This is what I says. Like always, there are timestamps down below in the show notes and description, so you can skip around to whatever you want to hear me discuss. But if you got the time, I would respect you and appreciate you and just send all of my thanks and my love to you if you would check out the entire episode. Now, if you are listening to the audio version and prefer video, or conversely, if you're watching the video and want the audio, you can find those versions at bandrewsays.com. Almost forgot the URL. Last thing, this was a relatively slow news week. There was nothing of interest really to me, so I figured, what better episode than this one to do my favorites of 2018. So we're going to be doing that. But before we do that, I figured let's go ahead and talk about two new microphone announcements. And the first one comes from Rode. The Rode Podmic was finally announced. I scoured the internet, looked at all the shopping sites, and it looks like the places that it is available for pre-order, it's £105. So I'm guessing we're going to see a price around maybe $100 or $150 in that price range. But as far as the specs, it has a cardioid polar pattern, a frequency response of 50 Hz to 13 kHz, an impedance of 320 ohms, and a sensitivity of negative 57 decibels. Now, something that's a little bit disappointing right now is that they have not released any kind of frequency response graph, so it's really unclear what this microphone is going to be tuned as or how it's going to sound. Now, don't be mistaken, this is not me saying that looking at a frequency response graph will tell you exactly how the microphone sounds, because you do still need to hear it. But looking at the frequency response graph will tell us, is it going to be a very bright microphone? Is it going to be a flat microphone? Or is it going to be a dark or dull microphone? It gives you a general idea. However, there is just nothing out there at this point to let us know the general gist of what the tone of the microphone will be. So I guess we will just have to wait and see when it comes out, and I can get my grubby mitts on it and review that sucker, because I am always excited when a new microphone comes out. And that's pretty much all I got there. It does seem a little bit strange that they roll off at about 13 kilohertz, but there aren't many fundamental vocal frequencies above that. It does make the microphone sound a little bit more open if it extends up through 20 kilohertz, but for spoken word, I don't think it's necessary to have anything above 10K unless you really want a lot of detail and a lot of clarity, and again, we'll just have to wait and see. So let's talk about the next microphone. This is one that I am even more excited about, and this is the Aston Stealth. This thing is so cool, and looking around online, it looks like it's going to be between $300 and $400, so it will be in the same market as the SM7B, RE20, Procaster, Heil PR40 microphones of that ilk. And it is a very interesting looking microphone in terms of the design as well as the features. So this thing is going to have 4 different modes, and that would be 2 vocals. One is for men, one is for women. There is a guitar mode, and then there is a vintage or dark mode, which is intended to sound a little bit more like a ribbon microphone. Now, the thing that makes this even more fascinating is the fact that Aston has put in a Class A preamp inside of this thing. So this thing is going to have the ability to take phantom power and boost the audio signal. So it will eliminate the need for any kind of Fethead, cloud lifter, or microphone activator, because this thing is going to have a microphone preamp inside of it, which is just a really cool idea. But as far as the specs, let's talk about that. You got a frequency response 20 to 20. You got self noise of 10 dBA. Now, the reason that there is some self noise associated with this microphone is because there are electronics in it to boost the signal. It's like having a little bit of a preamp, and that is why condensers have self noise specifications listed, while dynamics typically do not. So I am not sure if that self noise spec is going to be apparent when you're using it in dynamic mode, or if only when you are using it as a condenser, or not a condenser, but when you are activating that Class A preamp inside. As far as the sensitivity, -60 on passive, so it's even quieter than the SM7B. So I desperately hope that self-noise spec is not there when you're running it in passive mode, because if you have a sensitivity of -60 decibels and a self-noise of 10 dBA, that's going to be rough. But then in active, it's -16 decibels. That's insane. I have just never seen a microphone with a sensitivity that loud, whether it be dynamic or condenser. So if that is accurate and it's not just misrepresented on this initial specification sheet, that'll be something to behold. A dynamic microphone with a Class A preamp that has a sensitivity of -16 decibels. That will be bonkers. Then the max SPL is 140 decibels. There you go. And I just wanted to share both of these because new microphones means new toys to play with, means really fun. So I am just really excited about that. The Aston Stealth, the reason I'm even more excited about that than I am for the Rode Podmic is because it seems a little bit more innovative, like they're trying new stuff to solve some issues. And I just can't wait to get my hands on it. I tried to contact them. They're just ignoring me. They don't like me. So there you have it. Those are the two new microphone announcements. Now let's get into some personal stuff. First up, the Rode Podcaster, that's not it. The RODECaster Pro review finally went live after a couple of weeks of testing. And I honestly don't think I have spent more time on a review or a video for the Podcastage channel. I spent 25 hours, maybe 20 hours on that thing. It took so long. It was such a pain. And that's not indicative of the difficulty of using the device. It's simply of trying to understand the device to the best of my ability and make sure that I'm not misrepresenting any of the features and that I am being fair in my analysis of it, because I was a little bit critical of it. And I wanted to make sure that if anybody was disagreeing with me, they would at least understand my stance and why I am saying what I am saying about the device. But I do think that the review turned out really well. And I think the hardest part for me of that review was the length. It came in at 21 or 22 minutes, and that is hands down the longest review or microphone video I have ever done. And the morning that I was releasing it, it was still 26 minutes. So that day, I cut out 4 minutes of content, which I just thought was filler and wasn't really necessary. I at times would just get a little bit long-winded, so that was a difficult task, cutting it down even further. I tried to get it under 20. I couldn't do it, but I think it turned out really well, and I will throw a link in the description down below in case you want to check it out and you haven't seen it. It is a podcaster mixer, portable podcast studio thing. Really interesting device, but in some areas I think it fell short. Now I want to go ahead and share a little bit of advice for creators that I have personally learned from my own actions and mistakes. And hopefully this advice will help people who were negatively affected by the subscriber purge of 2018, because YouTube's out to get us. But I know that can be very discouraging when you see a negative number in the subscribers. So hopefully this will help give you some motivation to go forward and grow your base. So the advice that I have is, when you're trying to grow your channel, your podcast, your Twitter, your Facebook, whatever it may be, do so by sharing value with your potential audience rather than begging for likes or subscribers or followers, because that is not the way to go about it. And of course, I am going to explain what I did wrong and then what I did correctly. So it starts about a week or two ago, and I was posting on the Podcastage community tab with a link to an episode of the Bandrew Says podcast. Now, in this post, the text just read something along the lines of, I think the audio in this episode was a big improvement on the NTG3 2 weeks ago. Let me know what you think. Also, let's get the podcast channel to 1,000 subscribers. Now, after that post came out, I do get subscriber notifications on the channel. I think I got 3 new subscribers. So that is not a good conversion rate for a call to action. And it is very clear to me why. It is me begging for people to subscribe to this channel without really telling them why they should. I'm not saying, hey, if you subscribe to this channel, here's the value you're going to be getting. It's saying, help me out, but not telling you why you should help me out or what you're going to be getting out of helping me out. So then this following week, I went ahead and clipped a portion of the Bandrew Says podcast a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about how I process my podcast. And I titled the video very simple, How I Process Podcast Audio, and the thumbnail is just processing my podcast. And I also posted this on the Podcastage community tab. And the text on that one read, I get a lot of questions about my podcast signal chain. In this clip, I walk through all the plugins I use. Hope it helps, but if you have any questions, let me know, and maybe I'll make a more fully featured version. Now, after I posted this one over the last week, I think I have probably gained 50 to 75 new subscribers on the Bandrew Says podcast channel. So with those two instances here and this very thorough testing, definitely not just 2 data points, what I am able to decipher or share with you as advice is, at least in my experience, I have seen a much better conversion rate in terms of growing my audience by offering and showing people the value that they can get out of subscribing there, rather than saying, hey, help me out, get me to 1,000 subscribers, because your audience doesn't give a crap if you're at 1,000 subscribers. They just care about, is this channel that I am subscribing to going to be giving me anything of value? So that is my advice there. Rather than begging for subscribers or followers or anything, maybe don't even ask for them, because in that post that was very successful, I didn't ask for subscribers. I just shared a link, I shared value, and that led to a big bump in the subscriber rate. So share value rather than begging. There you go. Now let's jump to my favorite things of 2018, and we're gonna start with TV shows. But I should note that none of these categories are just things that came out in 2018. They are things that I've watched or read or listened to or acquired in 2018, regardless of when they came out. The first area that we are going to focus on is television. And the first show that I put on my list is Are You Afraid of the Dark? Season 1. This seems silly because it's an old Nickelodeon kids show that is a horror anthology series, and it is a little bit campy, it is a little bit goofy, it is a little bit kiddie. But the reason that I enjoyed it so much is because it is, in fact, a horror anthology series, and I really am getting more and more into horror. And even though it is very childlike, very goofy, and not very scary, it is nice to have this idea of sitting around a campfire with your friends, telling scary stories, trying to spook each other out, and all around, it was a very fun first season. I also ordered the second season, haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but all around a very fun show. The next TV show is Silicon Valley Season 5, which I can't believe they're already on Season 5. I think that might be wrong. But if you haven't seen Silicon Valley, it is incredible with Thomas Middleditch, Kumail Nanjiani. I can't remember the other people's names. It used to have TJ Miller. But it is a very good comedy, very cringy, and it makes you uncomfortable, but just all around a very funny look at tech folks in Silicon Valley and how they deal with being so uncomfortable and lacking social skills while having to deal with very important meetings and lots of money. Very fun show. Then we got Erie, Indiana, which is a show from 91. I'm not talking about the reboot, which I tried to watch and was bad. The reason I liked this one, I love conspiracies. That's no secret. This show is kind of like this kid going around on his bike in his city looking for conspiracies and solving mysteries, and I absolutely loved it. This came about because Dopeness Monster in the Discord server recommended it, and I said, I remember watching that. And I went ahead, and I don't know if I bought it. I think I did. I bought it on iTunes, and that is just an incredibly fun series to watch. Definitely dated, but still fun. And the thing I think I really like about these older horror anthology shows is that they didn't have all the technology. Nowadays, you could just Google something and you have the answer. But in 91, 94, not everybody nobody had a smartphone. They didn't exist. So they couldn't just Google something. If they wanted to find something out, they'd have to go down to the library, go through encyclopedias, and do all sorts of research, or just think it's a conspiracy. That's why I like them. Next up, we got Wolf Creek Season 1, which is a TV show that I found on the Shudder app, which is SHUDDER. It is a horror streaming service like Netflix, but only for horror. And this show takes place in Australia, and there is a serial killer who drives around and kills people. And I loved it so much. I think the cinematography and the environment that they film in is surprisingly beautiful. You always hear of the middle of Australia just being this desolate wasteland, and it definitely does seem like that. But at the same time, there's this peace to it, this tranquility to that dead space in the middle of Australia, which is almost uninhabitable. But in this serene kind of place, there is very violent things happening and all around. I mean, the female protagonist, she is, first off, very, very beautiful, but more importantly, an incredible, incredible actress. And the guy who plays a serial killer, ooh boy, he does it real well. And this is actually part of, I guess there's 2 movies that already exist, which I also watched, which were a lot of fun. I think a little bit, they're not as good as the TV series in my opinion, but if you're looking to get a feel for the middle of Australia and what that environment is like, or you just like a good horror kind of detective mystery almost, absolutely. Wolf Creek Season 1, it is on Shudder. Next, I got Tales from the Crypt. I'm not going to say much here. There's 7 seasons of it. It was HBO. If you do want to watch it, buy it on eBay. You can buy all 7 seasons on DVD for like 20 or 30 bucks. And it gave me 3 or 4 months of entertainment in the evenings. Really fun show. Lots of stinkers in terms of episodes, but also a lot of really great episodes. So if you're looking for another horror anthology series, Tales from the Crypt, absolutely. Then we got Curb Your Enthusiasm. I tried to watch this a couple of years ago and it did not stick, but I finally got around to watching it, and holy crap, that is some of the cringiest comedy that I have ever seen, and it is so incredibly relatable, and the characters are so unlikable at times that it makes you physically cringe. It's not just like ooh, I didn't like that. It's actually a physical, visceral reaction to how much cringe is happening and how uncomfortable the situations can be. If you're looking for that, if you like Larry David, if you liked Seinfeld, this is like Seinfeld, but just Larry David all the way, 100%. Curb Your Enthusiasm, the entire show was incredible. Then we got F is for Family Season 3. I love Bill Burr. Anybody who loves comedy loves Bill Burr. He is one of the best comedic voices out there right now. Very, very fun and relatable show. I talked about that last week, so I'm not going to go anymore. And then we got X-Files Season 11, and my freaking God. I'm putting it here because I feel obligated to, but Season 11 really wasn't that great. The Darren Morgan episodes were great. I think he only had one, actually, but the rest of it, I just have to put it here because it was such an anticipated event for me, and I did still have fun watching it, even if it wasn't the best representation of the show. Next up, we got my favorite movies of 2018. Again, not necessarily films that came out in 2018, but movies I watched in 2018. And the first one is Henry, A Portrait of a Serial Killer, or Portrait of a Serial Killer. Oh my God. This was another very rough watch, not because it was bad, but because the situations are horrific and rough and disturbing, and Michael Rooker's performance, holy crap. I don't think anybody that I have seen has played a serial killer or an insane person quite as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's this film that made Kevin Smith hire Michael Rooker as the father in Mallrats. So there you go. I mean, I don't know what else to say there. It's a rough movie, very well acted, very disturbing if you're into that. Next up, we got Backcountry. This was recommended to me by Heather in the Discord server, and Heather's a jerk. Heather's a jerk for recommending this. I've always thought, oh, I want to go live in the woods. But after seeing this film, no longer do I want to live in the woods. This is a survival nature film, I guess I would describe it as. A couple goes out into the woods, and there's a couple of misdirects in there, but I'm not going to tell you anything more about it because I want you to experience it the same way I did. Backcountry, if I'm not mistaken, 2014, 2015. And my God, so stressful, so anxiety-inducing. And if you are like me and you've always thought it would be amazing to live in a cabin in the woods, this may ruin it for you. Thanks a lot, Heather. The next one is Hereditary, and this is a film that actually came out in 2018. Now, I can't remember any of the actors or actresses' names, but, and I'm going to hold off on saying anything about the actual plot. I want you to experience it as untainted as possible. I want you to go in with no expectations. All I can say is the main actress gave one of the most heartbreaking and convincing performances that I have ever seen. I imagine that being on that set had to be a very unfun experience because it seems so depressing. It seems like she is there. She's going through that in real time. I think that's exactly what I said when I talked about it during the year. But that had a very strong impact on me. And if you're looking for a horror kind of ghost, kind of cult, I don't know how I would explain it, kind of a family drama, I guess, 100% recommend it. It's a rough one. Then we got Misery, based on a Stephen King book, if I am not mistaken. Kathy Bates, and I can't remember the actor's name who is playing the author, but that's another good one. Another good one. That's all I can really say. I loved that film. I loved Kathy Bates' performance. She was so schizophrenic, and it was so convincing, and just a great, fun film, especially if you don't like walking. I'll just say that. Another Stephen King one right here. Dead Zone with Christopher Walken. I did not know what to expect going into this movie. I did not look up what it was about. I bought a Stephen King box set, and this was in it, and I loved it. It's a mix of kind of conspiracies with paranormal, with all sorts of fringe ideas, I guess, but all around, Christopher Walken plays his part very well. The story is excellent, and it has a little bit of a conspiracy to it, which I am always on board with because I've already alluded to it once this episode. The last thing that I am going to recommend is only the second movie or special on my entire list that had 2 thumbs up. The other one was Dead Zone, is John Mulaney, Kid Gorgeous. If you like comedy specials, I think this is hands down my favorite of the year. John Mulaney does it at Radio City Music Hall, and John Mulaney is just that. he's so misdirecting. He walks out wearing this really nice suit. He seems so well put together. Then he has very innocent jokes, but he also has somewhat dirty jokes. Just all around, his comedy is excellent. I think this is his best performance thus far, and I think it was, in my opinion, the best comedy special that I saw that came out this year. And that is it for favorite movies of 2018. Next, we got favorite books of 2018. We're decreasing the number each time we go down to a category. Favorite book: The Truth Is Out There, X-Files Volume 2, and Trust No One, X-Files Volume 1. I know I have recommended these books on the podcast before because it is essentially like getting 40 new episodes of the X-Files, because who the hell knows if we're ever going to get more. And they're just X-Files episodes in book format. They're both on Audible as well, so if you want to listen to them, they are incredible and just a lot of fun to fill that void, that Mulder and Scully-shaped void in our hearts. The next book is Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. This is a book that I've been meaning to get around to for years, and I finally did, and I am so glad that I did. It is a little bit slow at points, but it is a very quick listen or read. I think it's about 7 hours, 8 hours, but still a very great science fiction story. You can tell how many science fiction writers and filmmakers have been influenced by this book. It is just excellent and a very good and interesting story about what would happen if extraterrestrials visited Earth. That's all I'll say about it. Then we got 2 nonfiction books. These are, I bet you guys can guess what they're gonna be. First is Skunk Works, a personal memoir by Ben Rich. This is a guy who works at Skunkworks, which I believe is owned by Lockheed Martin, and they develop spy planes and all sorts of top secret aircraft, and it is just fascinating hearing the culture of a top secret place and hearing the people butting heads about budgets and trying to get money for their airplane rather than this other airplane to get money. It is just so interesting. And hearing the secrecy and everything around the development of top secret airplanes was just so cool. I really recommend that. And then my favorite book, I think I finished this in 2018. It may have been December of 2017, but I think it was around January. Area 51, An Uncensored History by Annie Jacobson. This too is an audiobook. I think all of these were audiobooks actually. And this one, it takes all that speculation that I have had about Area 51 and kind of removes some of that mystery, which is a bummer. But the story of what has actually gone on there is just as interesting and fascinating. And I've actually alluded to a story in this book where test pilots for the jet would wear gorilla suits in case any pilots of propeller planes would see them. And when they would go to the bar and be like, I saw this airplane without any propellers. Who was flying it? A gorilla. They would think that person was crazy. So the pilot who saw the jet is not going to spill the beans because they don't want to be thought of as crazy. And there's another idea in that about the Roswell craft where it isn't actually aliens, which I am guessing it's probably not, but rather it was a Russian craft. And the speculation there is that Stalin was fully aware of the hysteria caused by the War of the Worlds drama by, I don't think it was Orson Welles on the radio, was it? Whoever it was. The War of the Worlds being broadcast on the radio caused an entire state of hysteria. People lost their damn minds. So it could have been that Russia was just trying to reinstate a state of hysteria in the U.S. by saying, oh, we got aliens who are actually here. So it could have been that, or maybe it was an experimental craft and they were just wearing alien suits, so if anybody found it, nobody would believe them. And those are my favorite books. Next up, let's jump to my favorite music, and we'll try to go through this rather quickly because I did not properly document all the new music that I listened to throughout the year. First up, Pale Waves, all of it. It may be a little bit surprising. Oh, Bandrew listens to a female-fronted pop goth rock band. Yeah, I do. So what? It's amazing music. I enjoy it. It's not the most original, but there's something charismatic about that band as a whole. Heather, the front woman, is a beautiful voice. Beautiful, very soft, very expressive voice. And the music is very spacey, very 80s inspired by The Cure with lots of delay and reverb. And just all around great production, great songwriting. And they're goths. I love that. I wish goth pop rock, goth bubble bump, goth bubble bump, goth bubblegum pop punk. I don't know what it would be called. It's something. I really like Pale Waves. Then Jonathan Coulton. This is something that should be on my list every single year. I love Jonathan Coulton. There you have it. Just listen to all of his stuff. My favorite is Code Monkey. Highly recommend that song. Then we got Shellac 1000 Hertz. This is another thing recommended by Dopeness Monster, and this is Steve Albini's band, or Steve Albini is in the band. It's not his band, but he's in the band. And the song that starts it is, Dope would describe it as one of the most angry love songs of all time, and I would completely agree with that assessment. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but go ahead and listen to it. I should look up what the title of that song is, so I'm going to do that right now. And the first song on the album is called Prayer to God. So go ahead and look up Shellac, which is SHELLAC, Prayer to God, and listen to that. The lyrics are angry. He is very unhappy, and you can tell. But the production is also incredible. It is some of the heaviest guitar that I have heard, but the crazy thing is, it's just in standard tuning. The heaviness comes from the production, the amps they were running it through, the way that they were miking it. Just so fascinating hearing that and thinking, wow, that's so heavy, but they're not even playing an open E string. I think they start on a G, a C over G, something. So it's crazy. A really great album. Prayer to God if you want to see what I am talking about. Then we got Muse, Simulation Theory. This may be my number one pick of the year. I have found myself every single time I finish recording a podcast, or when I am recording or editing a video for the podcastage channel, or when I am finished and I'm creating thumbnails, uploading it, doing show notes, I will put on this album and listen to it all the way through. It is something that I think is their best work in years. It harkens back to their earlier stuff, a little bit darker, a little bit more conspiracy theory in there, because Muse does have a bit of conspiracy theory in them. What is it? They have a song about MK Ultra. They have a DVD called Harp. They enjoy their conspiracy theories, and this has a bit of that in there. I love the album so much, and I can't stop listening to it. It's been on constant rotation the last couple of weeks, couple of months, whenever it came out. And the last one, At the Gates, To Drink from the Night Itself. That's because At the Gates is one of my favorite bands. I don't believe this is their best work ever. I think it is amazing that they are still going and still creating music that is of high quality. I didn't listen to this and say, oh man, they lost it. I wasn't blown away by it as much as I was with Slaughter of the Soul or The Red in the Sky Is Ours, their earlier work. But they're old. They're old men. What can we expect from them? We should just be happy that they are continuing. They are still making good music. It's not revolutionary, it's not groundbreaking, but it is just still really fun Swedish death metal. Absolutely love it, and would recommend it if that sounds interesting to you. Now we are going to get to my favorite gear of 2018. I was very selective. I had an entire list of gear that I was very pleased with and really liked, but I pared it down to only 4 items, and it is going to be a little bit surprising because I haven't reviewed 1 or 2 of these devices. First one, I think everybody is going to guess it. It is the Universal Audio Aero. I think this may be one of the best pieces of gear that I have bought in the last 5 years. I don't think I've gotten this much use out of anything other than the SM7B. So the Universal Audio Aero 100%, the plug-in ecosystem is incredible. They are such great sounding emulations of the hardware versions, at least to my understanding, because I don't have the hardware versions to play with, but an incredible piece of tech. Love it. I use it every single week on the podcast, and I don't think I can move away from it without having the production of the podcast suffer quite drastically. Next, this is something that I think I may have purchased in 2017 on accident. That tells you something about my problem with gas. For anybody wondering, gas is gear acquisition syndrome. It's the Rupert Neve Portico 5017. It's one of the cheapest ways to get into the Rupert Neve ecosystem. I keep saying ecosystem, but I think it's the cheapest piece of Neve gear that's usable on its own. And I was reluctant to use it because I didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't want to admit to myself that I had purchased this because it is a $1,000 preamp. But for the last 3 months or so, I have been using it on my test rig to play around with. For all my Discord chats, I am using it. It's got a 2-to-1 compressor on there, which is amazing. It's got a DI in there, but it's got the Rupert Neve preamp, which just sounds wonderful. I am very, very much liking that. And when I was testing the RODECaster Pro on my testing rig, I did enjoy the RODECaster Pro for voice chats and doing all of that, but I missed the Neve. Simply put, I missed the Neve. I wanted to go back to that, and I wanted to be able to use the Neve with the RODECaster Pro because the Neve has better preamps, but no DI, no line input, no 1/4-inch inputs on the RODECaster, so that's That's what made me very aware of the issues with that RODECaster Pro and the line ends. Next, we got the Beyerdynamic M201TG. This is probably my favorite microphone of the last year that I reviewed. I thought this microphone just sounded incredible. On my voice, it adds a lot of bass and beefiness without sounding overly boomy, and it still has a lot of openness and clarity to it. It's the microphone that I used on, I should know the number, it's the episode that I recorded in the hotel room, and I got a couple of compliments saying, wow, the episode this week sounded incredible. And I was in a hotel room. Who would have thunk it? I can make my podcast sound better than I can in the studio when I'm recording in a hotel room with no treatment. So I loved that microphone so much. Highly recommend you check out that review. And if you are looking for a voiceover microphone, it's not designed for voiceover, but it is used, by the BBC radio stations in some of them. And it is apparent why, because it sounds incredible. And the last item, let me go ahead and see if I can, sorry for moving away from the microphone. I am going to, okay, it is in frame now. It is the Audio-Technica shock mount. In the video frame, I have pulled down the Rode NTG3 and I have the Audio-Technica AT8410A shock mount. I used this shock mount with shotgun microphones, obviously, but also I used it with the Beyerdynamic M201TG. It does such a great job at absorbing and eliminating any kind of bumps of the desk, and just all around an amazing shock mount. Doesn't work on everything, but still a very, very, very nice shock mount that I loved and I have been using since I got it. That is it for my favorites of 2018, but I want to hear from you guys there. What are your favorite movies, TV, books, or gear, or music of 2018? Let me know in the comments down below on YouTube. Let's go ahead and limit each of those categories to 2. You have to limit it 2 favorites for each of them. Movies, TV, books, music, gear. 2 favorite items in each category if you want. Let me know. I want to hear from you. Now let's go ahead and jump to what you had to say, and the first comment comes from Matt DeMoz. He says, I lost around 700 subs, lol. Guess it's my fault for using exchange sites. Now, when he posted this, I wanted to clarify. I asked him, you really lost 700 subs? That is insane. And he responded with, yeah, man, was just using anything I could find. YT Monster, YTubeKey, YTubi, Kingdom likes, etc. I really didn't have much of a choice. The algorithm just hates us right now. Funny thing is, as soon as I started using those sites, my channel started getting comments. The fake subs really do help you get yourself into search results. But now YouTube is pretty much making it impossible to get your foot in the door now. I'm happy just being a small channel, you know? It's kinda effing dumb. Okay, Matt, I 100% understand your frustration. That is a huge kick in the pants. But I don't think it's impossible to get your foot in the door. I think the issue that you're running into is that you are trying to get your foot in the door of a very crowded room, a very crowded party where all the people inside the room are pushing against the door because there's no room to move around, and you're trying to shove your foot in the door. Come on, man, let me in. I don't think it's the fault of the YouTube algorithm. I think it's the fault of the size of the gaming community on YouTube and the number of gaming creators. There are probably tens of thousands of people creating content very similar to you, or maybe not similar to you, but in the same genre as you, the same niche as you. So there, in my opinion, is the problem. To give you a little bit of context, I have a buddy, Beautiful OB, and we met in 2015 or so. He was sitting at maybe 50 subs, and he had been making videos daily or twice daily for about a year. He was not seeing any kind of growth. I was at about 5,000 at the time. And around that time, he made a switch. Well, I'll tell you what happened first, and then I'll tell you how that happened. Fast forward 2 years later, November 2017, we are doing a panel together. at a convention, and at that time, we were both sitting at around 50,000 subscribers. Now, fast forward to today, I am sitting at like 85,000 subscribers, perfectly happy with that growth if I do say so myself. But look at Beautiful OB. When we first met, I had 5,000, he was sitting at 100, maybe gaining a sub a month. Now he's at 288,000 subscribers, almost 290,000 or almost 300,000 subscribers. He blew right past me. So how did he do that? He did that by abandoning this idea of, I'm going to be edgy, I'm going to swear in every video, I'm going to be this edgelord cool guy. He stopped doing that, cut all those videos out, deleted all of them or privated them. I don't know what he did with them, and kind of rebranded his channel. What he did is he noticed this game was going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, and he said, I think this is going to be a big one. So the day that this video game came out, he stayed home, made a video as quickly as possible, and put it up there. That game was called Brick Rigs, and it is a brick game. I don't know how I would describe it. I'm not a gamer, but it's kind of a very family-friendly type of video game. That video blew up in popularity and he started growing. So the thing there is he was the first to the market with a new content, a new piece of content, a new video game that people were very excited about. But the big game streamers, the big video game channels had not jumped on board with that game quite yet. So I do think it is still very possible to get your foot in the door of the gaming scene, the gaming YouTube marketplace. But you need to know, it is such a crowded marketplace, it is going to be 10 times more difficult, 100 times more difficult than if you wanted to get into the microphone marketplace on YouTube, because there's maybe 5 or 10 of us. It's a lot easier there. There's a lot less competition here. But when you are doing gaming, you're going up against Jacksepticeye, you're going up against Markiplier. That's the extent of my knowledge. Or you'd be going up against Beautiful OB. So I think if you do want to move forward and grow your channel, like I said earlier, don't beg for subscribers. Make something that offers value and share that, rather than saying, I want to get to 1,000 subscribers, because why would a potential viewer care that you want to get to 1,000 subscribers? They don't care. They care, are you going to provide me anything of value? That's my take on it. I hope that wasn't rude or mean. I just want to give you a little bit of tough love, maybe give you some motivation. If there's a game, don't just copy what everybody else is doing. Do something original. Find a game that nobody's covering, nobody's playing, and offer value. And don't beg for subs, because those fake subs are going to be useless. I hope that helps. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that came across mean or you're mad at me. If you're mad at me, I fully understand. Yell at me. That's fine. Next comment comes from Cool Mark D. Just saw that you had a coffee drink on your desk. What are you drinking? I am big on venti Americanos, no sugar and espresso flavor that lasts longer. Win-win situation. Just add ice if you want to drink it within the next hour. Marky boy, cool Marky boy. Right now, I am drinking, or I was drinking, another black Americano from Starbucks. I replied to you in the comments, but I wanted to share that because it is the holiday season. It is chilly everywhere. People are going to be looking for a good coffee drink, and at Starbucks, don't get one of those sugar milk drinks. Get a black Americano. Tasty, not as burnt tasting as their actual just filter coffee. Go with that. Love it. Great suggestion, and great minds don't typically think alike, Mark, but here they do. Next comment comes from the eldest bro. I would say I really enjoyed Origin A, YouTube Premium show. I like to stream most of my movies and shows now because I am a Google sellout and do the Google surveys for free money to buy shows from Google. #sellout_2_Google. Eldest, I'm not going to address your whole selling out to Google, because if you've ever emailed me, now I'm on their radar. Now I'm on YouTube's radar, and they're going to come after me, man. That's all your fault. You sell out. But I will go ahead and add Origin A to my watch list. That's something that's actually been recommended a couple of times, but I simply haven't gotten around to it because I was working through the Tales from the Crypt, and all of that. There's been so many shows that I've been working through, but I will add that to my list. And the next comment comes from Age of Boredom. Maniac on Netflix is my favorite show I've seen recently. It's a great blend of weird and funny, and Jonah Hill and Emma Stone are great double bill. The episodes play with different styles and get nice and surreal as the season goes on. I'm keen to see the original Nordic series to see how that was. Now to track a subtitled version down. Age of Boredom, I do hope that you were able to track down a subtitled version of the Nordic series, but that does sound interesting. This was recommended to me on the front page of Netflix, and I almost clicked on it because Jonah Hill is incredible. I think he is a very underrated actor. He is a wonderful actor in Wolf of Wall Street, Moneyball. What else? Pretty much everything he's been in, I have liked him. He is a great actor, very relatable, kind of an everyman. I really like Jonah Hill. And Emma Stone, very great actress as well. I really like her as well. I first saw her in Superbad. Apparently one of my friends went to high school with her. That's weird. Didn't introduce me to her. What a jerk. Anyways, sorry, that's a little bit of a side story. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my watch list as well. Very, very interesting premise there. And both the actors are good. I'm sorry. Now I'm just thinking about Emma Stone. Anyways, have any of you seen either of these films, Origin A or Maniac? What are your thoughts on them? Let me know. Sorry. Next comment comes from Heather, and the last comment comes from Heather. Really enjoyed the podcast. Wow. The Working Cows podcast has an awesomely generous community. It was nice to have them participate in the August Sunshine Summit live stream we did, and I heard Dave Jackson's review of his podcast on the podcast Rodeo. Hope the BSP audience who have been affected by the YouTube sub purge are positive about it and keep making good content and sharing it. Alphonic is 2 hours for free per month. Heather, thank you very much. If you don't know, Heather, the host of the Sunshine and Power Cuts podcast, amazing podcast. And she just did 2 episodes where she interviews Emily Prokop from The Story Behind. Great interviews. So much fun to listen to, and they sound incredible. So go check that out. Sun Power Pod. Maybe it's sunshineandpowercuts.com. I should know that by now. I plug her so much. Go check out her podcast. It's amazing. Now, thank you for correcting me. I think I said Alphonic is 1 hour free per month, 2 hours free. Go ahead and try that out, Working Cows. Alphonic, 2 hours of free processing. You can see if you like it, if it does what you need to get to a higher LUFS level, and if your audience appreciates that, or if they say, dang it, Working Cows, it's so loud. Just do a little bit of testing. See what people think. Now, I do also want to say that Working Cows is awesome for taking part in the Sunshine Summit live stream, and I did also hear Dave Jackson's review of his show. I just didn't remember that I did. I went back to look it up after you mentioned that in the comment. I was like, oh, I did listen to that. I just didn't remember. Dave Jackson's podcast Rodeo, I don't really pay too much attention to the podcast that is being reviewed. I focus on his critiques and try to think, is that something that I do? If I sent my podcast into Dave Jackson, would he crap on me for that? So I very rarely think or remember what the podcasts are that he review, but I remember the criticisms that he has of the podcast. And also, I'll end by saying, I too hope that the folks that were affected by the subscriber purge continue to have a positive outlook and don't let that discourage them from creating good and fun content that they enjoy making. Get out there, offer value, and keep kicking butt. Do I sound like a motivational speaker yet? Let's get to my favorite part of the podcast, the Ask Bandrew segment. All right. If you guys got any questions, go ahead and send them to askbandrew@gmail.com, and I may answer them on an upcoming episode of the podcast. First email comes from Alex. He says, hey, Bandrew, odd question here. My audio interface is the Scarlett 2i2 2nd Gen with either an RE20 or an SM7B connected to various preamps such as a Cloudlifter CL1 or a Fethead filter. I've been using it for a little over 6 months now, and while I do love it, it has suddenly bumped into a weird issue. For whatever reason, it dropped the input gain by at least 10 decibels. Reinstalling the drivers, replacing the cables of every component, checking different microphones all yielded the same result. I checked Windows to ensure it wasn't spontaneously reducing the gain on me. I'm ready to throw this thing back at Focusrite, but I would love to hear your opinions before doing so. From Alex. P.S. I really do enjoy the podcast. Keep up the good work. Alex, I am very sorry to hear that you are going through this. One of the most infuriating things out there is when you are excited and having a good setup, and then one of the devices in your chain just decides to die out of nowhere. I have never personally heard of this exact issue happening, and I have never experienced it myself. And unless this happened when Windows forced an update on you, I wouldn't imagine that Windows would arbitrarily and randomly start cutting audio by 10 decibels, but that is always an option. What I would say, well, first off, since you did do all the troubleshooting, you tested every single component to see if that was causing the issue, I would say it is likely an issue with the Focusrite, and Focusrite should cover that. They should be willing to replace it because I think there is a 1 or 2 year warranty on their devices. They should replace it if it is busted and send it back to them. Don't just hang out and say, oh, whatever, I've had it for 6 months. Send it back. It should work for more than 6 months. That's crap. Best of luck to you, Alex. I hope you get that to work for you again. Next email comes from Tim. He says, "Hi, Bandrew. I have finally found the mic fail to end all mic fails. The attached picture is from Behringer's website listing for the B1. Tim coming through with another amazing microphone fail from a microphone company itself. That's not embarrassing for them in the slightest. Good for you guys." So, would it be condescending to label Tim the mic fail king? And that's not implying that Tim himself conducts microphone fails, but he is just so good at sniffing them out and tracking them down. He may be the microphone fail king. Keep them coming, Tim. I appreciate these. So to the audio listeners, the image that he shared is directly off of Behringer's website, and it is for the Behringer B1, which is a large diaphragm side address condenser microphone. However, the microphone is tilted at maybe a 45-degree angle to the ground, and the singer is singing into the top of it. So she is singing into, if I was speaking into the SM7B similarly, it would sound something like this. This is, on the Behringer site, singing into this microphone properly. How can a microphone company that is marketing their own microphone be that stupid? I understand broadcast folks screwing up because maybe they're just props. They don't care. They just want it to look cool. That's fine. But if you are the developer and creator of this microphone, should you not illustrate the proper way to use it? Because I guarantee you, one of the people buying your microphone will see that and think, oh, that's how you use it. And they will get terrible, terrible sound because you are being terrible examples, Behringer, you dopey F words. That's it there. We got another email from a different Alex. He says, "Hello, Bandrew. Please call me Alex." I will call you Alex. And don't call me Al. I got a few questions. I think I'm hilarious. I got a few questions. I am just curious. What will force you to switch iPhone to Android? Do you think society is going the right path? What is your weirdest comment you have ever read? First time writing question on the podcast. I was watching for a few months. Love the podcast. Awesome work. Good luck in the future. Alex, thank you very much. Appreciate you sending in an email. So, let's address the first question. What would force me to switch from iPhone to Android? And this is difficult because I don't see that happening really. I guess the first one would be if Apple stopped making devices. That's one option. Or maybe if they started selling off all of our data to data brokers and data aggregators, I would say, okay, delete everything, burn it all to the ground. I'm going somewhere else. But with that being said, that's because I'm so locked into the ecosystem and I am so reliant on the features they have and the media that I've purchased through their services, because currently I don't think you can access all the music you've purchased or all the movies that you've purchased on other ecosystems. So that contributes to me staying on the ecosystem. But to be fair, if I was switching, I would not be switching to Android. I would be switching to Pure OS, which is an operating system that's being developed by Purism for their upcoming phone, the Librem 5. And that is a Linux-based operating system that's developed from the ground up to be more security-focused. And on top of that, the hardware for the Purism phone, it's not the prettiest, it's not the most up-to-date, it's not edge-to-edge bezel-less screens, any of that. But it does have some very neat hardware security features like kill switches for the antennas, the cameras, the microphone, so it's not just going into a setting and saying, turn off my Bluetooth. Are you actually going to do it? I don't know. It's actually severing the connection for those antennas when you want them to, or severing the connection for the camera. So if that is, the kill switch is enabled, nobody can hack into it. There's no physical connection there. Amazing, amazing looking device. So if I was leaving iOS, it would be for Pure OS, not Android. Sorry, Google. Sorry, Alex. I'm not doing it. Next, do I think society is going on the right path? This is a doozy of a question. And I thought a lot about this. And I will start by saying, looking at society, it's tempting to say maybe not. However, I don't think humanity is destined to be going down the wrong path forever. I think that it has a way of correcting itself and getting back to some sort of equilibrium. Clearly, right now, we are in a very turbulent time. But I don't think that it's inevitable that we will be in this turbulent time forevermore. I don't think that's the case. I think that we'll start to see some removal of social networks and people will start removing themselves from the internet a little bit more. And that makes perfect sense to me. We will likely see people focusing more on local communities rather than thousands and thousands of people in our social media feeds. I don't think that we were probably designed to be taking in that much information from so many different people. I think that's likely going to be causing some kind of mental strain, some kind of issue where you're thinking the world's so much worse because a lot of people use social media to vent all their frustration, all the issues they have in their life. I lost my job. My boss wasn't asked to me. I don't like the president. I don't like this. I don't like that. And social media feeds can get very, very negative. In local communities, you probably don't have as much of that. So it's likely going to be a much healthier environment for you. And that is why I advocate people to unfollow a lot of people. I follow maybe 50, 60 people. That's the only number of people that I follow because I don't want to fall into the trap of viewing the world as the most negative, worst thing that's ever existed because I don't think that's true. I just think that people share the most negative things because that gets the most attention and it gets them the most clicks. Same thing goes for news outlets. They don't want to share good stories. They want clicks. They are clickbait farms now because their entire salaries, their livelihoods rely on it. So currently, I do concede that it seems like society is going down the wrong path. That could be that is what's being represented to us, what's being shown to us because that gets the most clicks. But it could also be that we are just making mistakes right now. But that could be resolved very easily in the future. We're not going down the wrong path forever. I can tell you that. The world is not going to go up in flames. We're going to be fine. People just need to follow less people on the internet and stop worrying about everybody on the internet. Focus on 50 people, 60 people. Focus on the people around you. Get to know them. Care about them. Focus on that rather than everybody on the internet. That's my take on it. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but I don't want people to leave this thinking, oh, the world's going to end. Third question, what's the weirdest comment I have ever read? I honestly can't recall any that are too weird. I will share one that I always refer to because it was the most shocking. I tried to find it, but I blocked this person on YouTube. That deletes all their comments. And I had posted it on social media, but I deleted that because I didn't think it was appropriate to put out there. So out of the blue, this guy starts commenting about how my vocal box should be cut out and I shouldn't have the ability to speak anymore. I was feeling a little bit feisty today, the day that this happened, and I responded with, you're not mad at me, you're mad at your father, which is probably true. Why else would you be such a troll and such a jerk on the internet? You gotta have something wrong in your life to be that vitriolic. And he did not like that at all. He was not having it. And he threatened to cut off my head, throw me in a ditch, and make my family watch. All this violent stuff. Yeah, big talk. I looked him up on the internet. Not that difficult to do. I found out that he lives in Poland, so he's of no concern to me. A little troll boy. And there you have it. That's the weirdest one I can think of. Jesus Christ. And the last comment comes from, or the last email, apologies, comes from Z Alves. He says, "Hi, Bandrew. I hope I'm not late for your Christmas show. It's been a good year for the podcasting industry. The format keeps on blooming, and new gear has been released by Blue and Rode. However, this year we saw the disappearance of Podcast Mic, and Low Nose hasn't uploaded in a while. My question is, how do you thrive when others decline? Season's greetings to you and the whole podcasters community, your longtime fan, Z Alves. Z Alves, that is a very good question, and thank you very much for the email. I'm going to preface this by saying I respect and love both of those guys who make their videos. They are great content creators, very likable guys, and very high-quality videos. Additionally, I don't know exactly what happened with either of them in terms of content, in terms of anything. So this is purely guessing on my part. So I will start with what I do know. I have an unhealthy necessity to receive validation of strangers on the internet. And that is a big motivating factor to keep on going. Keep making content, because the moment you stop, that's when the sadness comes in. And you may think I'm joking, and I kind of am, but I think there's a little bit of a nugget of truth in there. A little bit of a nugget where if I were to stop uploading and I just went back to not receiving likes on my videos or comments saying, "Hey, good job, buddy," there's a possibility the sadness would start to creep back in, and that's not good. So it's kind of like I am self-medicating in the sense that I am uploading videos to the internet, and I am getting positive feedback in return. And another thing that's terrifying about that is, what if people turn on me? Oh God, I don't want to think about that. So there's a little bit of a joke, but a little bit of truth in that as well. Another thing is, I am also a very stubborn person. So when I was starting out this idea, this podcastage video review idea, I had people say, "That's stupid. Oh, why do you think you can do that? You can't make money doing that. That's not sustainable. You're going to give up real quick. You're an idiot. That's such a stupid idea. Why would you want to upload to YouTube?" And something that I have found about myself is when somebody says, "You can't do that. That's wrong. You're going to fail. That's a stupid idea," I become very spiteful. Not in the sense that I am going to get back at them. I'm going to get them. I'm going to tear them down. No, not like that. But when they tell me, "You're an idiot, that's not going to work," a fire gets lit underneath me, and I do everything in my power to prove them wrong. I worked night and day. I spent stupid amounts of money buying the gear to review that I thought would help me become successful, because I wanted to be able to rub these people's noses in and say, see that, you little dick, you little jerk. See that? You were wrong. You were the wrong one, you jerk." So I am a very stubborn person, and there's a bit of spite on what I do, because I want to prove these naysayers wrong. These people who said, "You're going to fail. You're an idiot." And I hate when people say that. I would rather them say, "Hey, yeah, good job, man. You can do it. You can do it." But if they did that, maybe I wouldn't be here. So thank you to all the people who tell me I'm an idiot, that I'm wasting my time, wasting my money, and nothing I do is worth anything. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for the motivation, dicks. But now let's talk about them, the creators. With Low and Podcast Mics, I am guessing that they probably both have families and wives and girlfriends and all of that. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a child. So that removes a lot of responsibility financially as well as time-wise. It opens up a lot of that for my own discretionary spending. I can spend that time and money however I would like. So because I don't have to set aside family time, I don't have to pick up kids from school, I don't have to take them to soccer tournaments or anything, I am able to say, "You know what? I'm going to spend all Saturday and Sunday working on a podcast. I'm going to spend Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night working on a review. And I don't have anybody saying, hey, what about me? You say you love me. Why aren't you loving me? I don't have to worry about that. I have the ability to say, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And financially, as your family grows, even if you just have a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, you have additional financial responsibilities to that person. You can't spend as recklessly as sometimes I feel I am buying this gear, buying this stuff to review. So that adds an additional hurdle for people in relationships with children to overcome, because children and significant others definitely take priority over a YouTube channel. You can't just say, oh, you know what? I'm going to leave my kid at school. I'm not picking him up today because I want to work on a YouTube video. I'm not going to feed my kid this week because I want to buy an SM7B to review. That's where I think the big difference is, that I have no responsibilities. I do have to go to my job. I do have to do my job well. But outside of my job, I have minimal to no responsibilities in terms of other people relying on me, which removes a lot of stress and a lot of burden. So again, I'm speculating here. I don't know if that's true. That's my take on it. So what can we learn from my response? I am a deeply unhealthy person. A deeply unhealthy person who is stubborn, spiteful, and seeks validation of strangers on the internet. And may God help him the day that audience turns on him, because who knows what'll happen then. That's my response to you. There's a little bit of a joke in there, but also a little bit of a nugget of truth. And that's going to be it for this week. More personal of an episode, but I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as well. Maybe you can share your favorite stuff of 2018 down below. Next week is episode 150 of the Bandrew Says podcast. I can't believe it. I'm going to celebrate next week, but it's going to be a very special episode, perfectly timed, coming out New Year's Eve, I think it is. New Year's Eve. And I am going to be reviewing my goals of last year. I bumped the microphone and talk about how I did on achieving them, set my goals for the following year, or 2019. And also, there may be a very special recording method that I am using next week if it works out well. It may be a complete train wreck and you may hate me for it, but that's all I got. If you celebrate Christmas, happy Christmas. If not, happy day off. Enjoy a coffee. Enjoy the cool weather. Enjoy the calm, the serenity outside where everybody's just hiding indoors, opening gifts. You can just sit on your balcony and say, look how dead it is outside. There's nobody outside. This is beautiful. I'll leave you with that. Talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer of Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.